Welcome back to a Designated Drinker Show's limited series, The Do-Gooders Social Hour. Now, we've taken a slight break from our regular scheduled programming to give center stage to a few folks who are bringing goodness to the world. And to accompany you on this episode into doing good, we recommend crafting yourself a Radler Paloma, because it's a bit like go-go. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, which you might not expect, but when it all comes together, it's perfect harmony. So to find this recipe, just scroll down into the episode notes or head over to designateddrinker.show. So, like I said, welcome back, because this is part 2 of our conversation with the founder and executive director of Homeroom Music and Film, Charvis Campbell. So if you've missed part 1, you definitely want to go back and give that a listen first. So Charvis, in part 1, you shared your journey in becoming a record collector and dealer, a bit about Tiny Stage and your true passion for music, literature, and film. So to kick off part 2, and in case somebody has missed part 1, let's tell everyone what the festivals are all about. So we've got a couple of dates going. Let's start off with opening night, would you?
Sure. So opening night is Friday, June the 21st, and we're going to be at the Black Cat, and it's going to be an amazing evening. We have the spiritual jazz legend Doug Karn who'll be performing. Doug is an organist. He's on the piano, and we have Vanessa Rubin who's going to be that voice. And then we have the Jogo Project that's going to open for them, and they're a mix of jazz and go-go fusion. Really, it's going to be a wonderful evening. And then we jump to the next day, which is our outdoor festival at the Parks at Walter Reed. The gates open at 12. The festival starts at 1. And it's really an all day of family-friendly activities. We'll have a live mural painting. We'll have a youth village with the commanders and the caps there and the wizards. We'll have other community organizations. We'll have some great food by some amazing vendors and some kind of craft drinks for the adults. And of course, surrounded by amazing music all day. And we go till 9 o'clock. So really excited
So
about that.
make sure I wear my
And then in
dancing shoes.
July,
I'm gonna guess.
you should definitely comfortable. But I would say bring a blanket and because that's going to come in handy as well. Then in July we're going to do it all over again on a smaller scale. But this is going to be at Alethea Tanner Park on July the 20th. And this is a wonderful park in the middle of some development in Eckington, and with Noma Bid and the Office of Film, Cable, Television, Media, and Entertainment, and lots of other sponsors. We're going to be out there and doing some great work and playing some go-go music, and again vendors and what I'm really excited about is I have 2 boys who love to run around, and I'm going to keep them active and busy, and they're going to love it. So that's what it's all about for us.
Absolutely. So if you missed any of that, don't worry. All you'll need to do is scroll down in our episode notes. We'll make sure there's a link to the website that'll give you all the information, give you who's where, when, what to bring, what not to bring, what to anticipate. Because like if I remember correctly, you said that on the 20th, you're going to have the water company there just doing some
Yeah,
like
sure. Of course, it's going to be.
some kind of water park kind
Yeah,
of.
it's going to be so hot in July.
Exactly.
Yeah, you gotta do a water spray. Got to jump in that.
I call that sprinkle time. I have dogs, labs. I do that. I reenact that in the summertime in my backyard too, on a small scale.
Um,
So, what is the inspiration behind the festivals then? I mean, that's a big
sure. So
undertaking.
it is. Our budget is a lot of money. We pay the artist right, and we have a great team and staff and production cost. And if you think of everything from porta potties
Yeah.
to fencing to the stage, we actually bring that in. So it's not a small undertaking. But I referenced earlier in part 1 that we had the opportunity to do this wonderful film, this wonderful documentary that again is now on PBS. And I'm really pleased because we worked hard on that, and a great
Remind us of that
crew
name again.
and team. It's Blackfire Records. and you can follow it through our link. I'm sure there'll be a link provided
Absolutely.
below. Yes. So we had this wonderful film, and it's a film about music. So we had also these artists who were committed to perform and play for us. And so we said, you know what? Let's do a day of music. And when it gets night, let's show our film. And we thought a few hundred people would come out, and we had a few thousand people come out. So we kind of overachieved. And year two, we almost had close to 5,000
Wow.
people last year. And so for us, it's a way to really celebrate and honor, kind of jazz and go-go history and all of these great legends. As you may know, many of these jazz legends are getting older, and so for us, it's a way to honor while they're living, right, and appreciate their music, and also get them to drop some knowledge as they're going to do some master classes for us along the way. So for us, it was really just came out of that, and that was year one. And then again, I referenced year two last year. We and I should have done a better job of taking notes on this, but we invited Brian Jackson to perform, and Brian Jackson is the old partner with Gil Scott Heron. They did some amazing music in the '70s and early '80s. The Bottle, one of their biggest hits, and so Brian Jackson comes back to DC, and he's on stage at the Parks at Walter Reed, and he says something like this: "I was, born in New York, but I grew up in DC. This is where I became a man. This is where I did some of my best music. This is where he kind of worked with Gil Scott Heron, and so to have that on film, to have Brian say that to me just makes my heart tingle, right? And really, just a special day of music. And now we're in year three, and again, we have some amazing jazz greats. We have Doug Karn opening for us, but on that Saturday, the June the 22nd, we have Gary Bartz, and again, Gary, spiritual jazz from the '70s. Started. If you look at his early career, play with Miles Davis, and did some work with Dizzy, and but really came into his own in the '70s. Formed a band, and put out some beautiful music. And Gary's going to be with us. Another band, Idris Ackamore and the Pyramids. So if you could see, we have a kind of a spiritual jazz bent, but for us, it's really honoring these jazz legends, these jazz greats, and again, squeezing these nuggets of knowledge and really filming this, right? Because we film this, and our hope is, that in a few years it won't be on the floor of a garage, but we'll be able to put this together and really kind of make something out of some of this old footage that we have of some of this great work that we've
That's
seen.
great.
So.
That's we're doing this virtually so our listeners understand, but we can see each other across our digital platform, and you just exude like passion and joy when you talk about this. I'm sure the listeners can hear it through
Ah,
your voice, but to see your face, obviously you're doing it all right. It's wonderful to have so much passion for what you do.
well, thank you.
It's a blessing that not many of us have. So to see you have it, and thank you for sharing all of that. It's great to be a part of a greater story, and I'm just feel like I'm taking a little part in yours. I get to borrow from you for a second, or for an hour that we get to talk to one another. But thank you. It's exciting to see.
No, and it feels good to be able to express it and talk about all the good work that we're doing. So thank you for the
No, it's great.
opportunity.
Is there a special way you get to like the next generation, the younger generation? I mean, we talk about making sure we save and record. Is there magic sauce on how to make that connection?
So I think yes, I think you allow this younger generation to do what they want to do with music, right? And I remember when I was a kid listening to hip hop, my grandma was like, "What are you listening to?" And and turn that off. And I almost find it now, when I hear some of this, but then I have to catch myself and realize, well, got to slow down, right? It's very cyclical, right? They're just really expressing themselves. I may not
Yeah,
understand it at all, but they're expressing themselves in a way that they know and that they love, and so appreciating from that perspective. So we do what we call these loop sessions or music producer workshops, where we allow folks to come in and play with music, play with beats, And and for me, it's really fun to watch them, take a sample or take a couple seconds of a song, and then go off and make their own song with it, right? And that's essentially what sampling is. And it's also fun to kind of educate them on, well, hey, you hear that beat? And yeah, that's tribe. Well, hey, let's figure out where it came from, right? And where did they first get that? And so we play the original, and their mind is blown. But to me, that's what music is about. And or allowing really some kids come in. Where our record shop is on a street where there's a bus literally right in front of the shop, and so we have some school kids who every day we have a speaker outside, so they hear the music, and I think they understand we're a vinyl shop, but I still get a few sneak their head in and look at the record player in a curious, very focused, like, really, that music is coming
Yeah.
from there, as opposed to outer space.
Yeah. Their phone.
Exactly, exactly. Their phone, right? Which is coming from some cloud.
I'm sure that suppression has to hurt your heart.
I think the experience with the record, it's very different from obviously listening to music electronically, right? I joke with people, you're never going to get fat listening to a record, right? You got to get off your butt. At a certain point, to either flip that record or turn it off, because that's just how it works, right? But that experience, with the record, with the reading the liner notes and the cover, to me, that is part of that whole experience. That it's like holding a book, right? You could read all you want, on a square, but there's nothing like holding a book. And so for me, there's nothing like hearing that rich music, right? Because digital, it's digitized, right? It's almost too sanitary, it's almost too clear. When you hear a record, you in some ways hear the imperfections, you're going to hear that crackle, and to me, that sound is so much more robust, and so much more of what I want, right? And so for me, it's about sharing that clearly with the kids, but clearly with everybody as much as
I
I can.
equate
So.
that often to photography. So I shoot for creative expression for my own myself. So when I started shooting, it was all film in the dark room. Of course, you have
Mm.
grain. Depends on like what film you use, how much grain you have in the film because it's just natural. And then when we went to digital, to your point, I said the same thing. It's too clean. There's like it's too crisp.
Mm.
It didn't feel. It gave me that. I didn't like the digital feel. Now, of course, with time I've all adjusted, and then you go back in and add the grain, which is kind of funny. It like
Yeah, yeah, of
you
course.
add it back. But yeah, that's how how art is can evolution of art, I guess, could be it can be hard on us.
So when you said that, it actually took me back to being in high school, and we were forced to take a photography class, and we all cheated and hated it, but it really taught us a lot, about film and about that experience, and kind of memory. My nose kicked off, and I remember smelling,
Fix.
all of those chemicals in that dark room, and it's a smell right away. You know what it is,
Absolutely.
that
I
dark
love
room,
the smell of
that
Fix. It's not
that
very
dark
good
room.
for you, and you shouldn't smell it for
Uh,
long.
Yep.
Maybe that's what's wrong. I spent a little too much time in the dark room.
You might not be the only one. Yeah, talking about the '80s now, right?
Exactly. Oh, too funny. Actually, I went back to school in the early '90s for photography. I found it a little later in my life because when I was always
Oh,
a
wow,
visual
okay.
artist, commercial artist, but then went back to school. Found photography as a second love, so I started like in my well after college years. Started doing. Yeah, I quit doing the darkroom
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I forgot to turn the fan on once. Almost passed out that
That's good.
day.
No, no, sure, you need that. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
fair enough.
oh, too much. So again, just in case you missed it, I'm going to make sure that the notes there's a link into the notes, everything that's going on for Homeroom Music Festival. Just in case anyone missed it, I want to make sure that they know it's Friday 21st is opening night at Black Cat. Saturday, June 22nd is the free festival at Parks at Walter Reed. And then jump ahead to the next month and Saturday, July 20th, another free festival at Athea Tanner Park, and Eckington, correct? All in the DC
Oh,
area.
great summary.
No, I don't
Thank
want
you.
anyone to miss it. And again, I'm going to have, we're going to make sure we have a link in the episode notes as well on designateddrinker.show. But we'll make sure all those links are there. And then we also want to make sure they have a link to what else you do about the master classes and see what's going on. Cause I mean, and why not go shopping for records? But I mean, there's
Uh, of course.
kind of forgot that part.
And yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Get
mean,
it?
we have an amazing, and sometimes I kind of hit myself. I take for granted the collection of records that we have, and we specialize in jazz and soul, but we have an amazing African and reggae collection. We acquired, and incidentally, we're doing a documentary on this gentleman, George Collinet. George is the one of the founders of Afropop, one of their first kind of on air kind of DJs, if you could say that. But he was also one of the first Africans on Voice of America back in the 60s. And if you think Voice of America, it's the government's arm to spread democracy, right? But it was also about music, right? And so for an hour, Maxi Voom Voom, as he's called, or was called, played American music, James Brown and other music. We interviewed a couple months ago the African ambassador to the United States from
Yeah.
Cameroon, and he talks about being a kid, 13 years old in his village, right? They didn't have TV. They obviously didn't have internet, right? But he had radio. He had a transistor radio that they shared between friends, between the family, and they fought over who got to listen, 10 o'clock to Maxi Voom Voom, which is George Collinet,
Wow.
right? And so to hear the ambassador tell that story, again, you talk about getting chills and realizing that it's bigger than you, and folks need to hear this. And George is almost 80 now. He lives in DC. He's been living in DC for 30, 40 years. But his love of music, his love of African music, his he could talk about Hugh Masekela and Fela Kuti and even some of these younger Afrobeat artists, and his love of life and his love of all. I just had to
It's
share
awesome.
it, and so
Well,
working
it
on that
tells you
right
the
now.
power
So
of music, the power of art in general, but the power of music is, to your point, it has been used in lots of places to spread the American democracy, thought, dream,
oh, sure,
or
sure. And I like to think, let's go a step further, right? So the power of music, but you combine that with the power of
mm,
film, right? So our documentaries are music and obviously that visual aspect, and there's nothing like it, right? From an educational component, but also from a
well,
preservation
the other thing
factor,
is the
right?
way to influence the next generation. For them to believe they can, they need to see. So they need to see
Oh,
themselves do these
exactly.
things and do more than um, what they may believe, or unfortunately what society sets up. So those things are
Oh,
those are
sure.
huge barrier breakers. It's the long game. It's a very long game, but it's incredibly important. Incredibly
Yeah, yeah,
important. So
without a doubt.
can't say enough about that, right? So, all right. I think we're coming. Okay, tell me this before we go.
Mhm.
Before we go,
Mhm.
because Hal just came on, gave me stink eye again.
Uh,
If there was one thing at the festival that I
mhm.
shouldn't miss, is there a thing?
Is there a thing?
Yeah, putting you on the spot.
So, I think it's gonna be that amazing music. As much as I wanna say it's the mural painting, or it's that youth village that we're gonna create, or some of that, that great food and great drinks, we're all there for the music, right?
Yeah,
So, I'm gonna be fixed. I've made a mistake in the past. I've tried to be busy and tried to be everywhere and talking to people and be on stage and behind stage, but I'm gonna make sure that when Gary Bartz and Idris Ackamore, when they're on stage, I'm going to be fixed and the audience watching and appreciating this great music. So I think that's it, right? It's going to be the music.
great, great. I know that was like trying to pick like your favorite child, but
Yeah, yeah.
well, I want to thank you for spending your time with us. But beyond that, I want to thank you for sharing your love for music and helping the rest of us see um, and remember and not forget and really learn through you. And thank you for giving all those other artists a stage that allows us to become a part of a bigger picture. So again, thanks for bringing in so much goodness in the world.
Well, thank you. Very excited and look forward to talking to you again. Let's do
Absolutely.
it.
I'll see you at the festival, if nothing else.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Right. Cheers.
Cool.
The Designated Drinker Show is produced by Missing Link, a Latino-owned, strategy-driven, creatively fueled production co-op. From ideation to creation, we craft human connections through intelligent, engaging, and informative content. Also in the Missing Link lineup of podcasts is Rodger That, a podcast dedicated to guiding you through the haze of dementia, led by skilled caregivers. Now, if you're looking for a whole new way to enjoy the theater, check out Between Acts, an immersive audio theater podcast experience. Each episode takes you on a spellbinding journey through the works of newfound playwrights, from dramas to comedies and everything in between. Find Missing Link's League of Podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And while you're there, please don't forget to follow, download, and review the shows. Your reviews help our shows reach new audiences. To find out more about Missing Link, visit missinglink.company. That's missinglink.company.